The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
It's a Wednesday episode of Running Point on YSNLive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Your two favorite runners with you here on a Wednesday, Anthony Herbig and Scotty Mincher. Run the marathon next week, Scotty. You ready?
Yeah, it's like that. What is it, Brute? The boss born to run.
On the run. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Once again, Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown is our presenting sponsor. They go the extra mile for you. We try to do the same here on this show every single day and at YSN. We thank them for their constant support of this show and everything we do on the network. Scotty, it is a warmer today than it was yesterday. We were talking off the air how cold it was yesterday and how some of our announcers, not many, but some, had to go brave the elements and get a little bit of softball and baseball in.
Yeah, well, a bit warmer today, and then the forecast looks great for tomorrow. So
We're back to 80s tomorrow. That's my sweet spot. It's like, yeah, let's stay there. Let's stay there forever. Let's just have that global warming hit us in full force. I don't care about the ice caps. I want 80-degree weather year round.
yeah, let's just hope that everybody doesn't get sick now.
Oh, hush. Come on, Scotty. Knock on wood. Okay.
I'm
I
knocking.
just know it. Nope, didn't hear it. Okay. Let's go over the scores that did happen last night. We did have baseball and softball played, just not a ton of it. Canfield was able to get the sweep over Howland with their bats, 8-6. This was an impressive win for Canfield because they were in that situation that some baseball teams get in every now and then during the season where it just lined up where the arms were not exactly deep. They were running out of arms. They really couldn't throw a lot of people, and they had to rely on their offense to win kind of an offensive show. Canfield able to do it 8-6 over Howland to get the sweep over the Tigers. In the two games against Howland, Canfield scored 16 runs. So those bats are starting to really heat up as they came back from Myrtle Beach strong. Garfield softball, they got the win over Camel Memorial 11-4. Final score there as they opened up that MVAC series. We talk about Canfield softball, Scotty, the game that I was at last night, 7-1. They get the win over Howland. It was 6-0 after 2 innings. Brooke Taters settled down after that, but it was too late. 6 runs, way too much for Melina Toth, the way she's pitching this year. Howland finally made a couple of adjustments in the 6th inning. They got 3 consecutive hits. They scored a run, but then Melina Toth shut them down before any kind of rally could happen. It was one of those games, Scotty, where it was cold, and I think you saw one team a little bit more prepared for it than the other. I feel like when I watched Howland, especially the first couple innings, they were like almost in shock that they were out there. I feel like they were just kind of walking around like, I can't believe we're out here. They were making a couple of uncharacteristic errors. And Canfield just came ready to go, and it looked like Canfield was playing in the weather they had down at Myrtle Beach still, and Howland was trying to catch up because obviously both teams had warm weather last week with it being warm here and warm at the beach. It just looked like, especially those first 2 innings, Canfield was the, no pun intended, warmer team than Howland was, and sometimes that can happen in cold weather situations.
Yeah, I get it's one of those things where Mother Nature never really gives. It's like they say in basketball, the floor doesn't give when you hit that floor. It's you're gonna feel some pain, and even at the highest level, you don't really know when games are extremely cold. Like even the Browns Saints game this past year, where I think with the wind chill, it was like something around 30 below, 20 to 30 below zero. And, some guys, performed well in the cold, other guys didn't. And that's just kind of how it went. So you never really know how a team's going to fare in inclement weather like that until they actually get out there.
It always amazes me when I see like football players playing at the high level that you have to play it in the NFL in like 10-degree weather, wind chills like -10, because I can't function at all. Like last night, it was like 40 with a wind chill of like 30, and my finger. I was telling you before the show, my fingers were like locked. I couldn't bend anymore. My joints were like, no, we're not doing this anymore. And they're out there in much colder temperatures doing high level football, skills. I'm just like, how do you even? I can't fathom sitting out there in the cold. Like playing, I feel like you're warmer because you're moving around a lot. But like, God love the fans that go out there and sit in 10-degree weather. And you could not pay me enough to do that. And I'm certainly not going to pay the money that it takes, to get to an NFL game to sit out in that kind of cold weather for 3 hours. Ugh, I don't know. That's why I'll probably never go to as much as this sounds like, oh man, you can't even be a fan if you're saying this. I would rather watch an AFC championship at home than out in the cold in the weather. I mean, it's just exciting. I can see a lot more, and I'm not freezing my butt off. Paying a lot of money to do it too. You are paying to go sit outside in dangerously cold temperatures for 3 hours. I don't know.
Yeah.
That never really computed with my brain.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, especially with football, I feel like going to the game, it's always, super fun, but I feel like football on TV
Mhm.
is, sometimes just as good, if not better, than actually going to the game. Now, like baseball and
It's total
basketball.
opposite. I would much rather be at a baseball game than watch it on TV.
Yeah, it's totally
But here's what
off.
I will say about the thing about football that's different than baseball, that is a con or is a positive to being at football better than being at baseball. I feel like there's not really too many bad seats in a football stadium as far as what you're seeing. And in fact, sometimes the closer you get, the worse the seat can be, because the harder it is to see the other side of the field. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes a little bit higher up, maybe the top of the first bowl or the bottom of the second bowl, is actually kind of a better seat than like the front couple rows as far as what you can see happening. Unless you're at the 50-yard line, then you're obviously filthy rich. But like if you're at the corner of the end zone and you're down at like the third row, you have no chance in the world of seeing what the heck's going on the other side of the field. There's no way. You know what I'm saying? At least I guess I can't talk for everyone because I have 2200 vision. I can't even see you right in front of me. But I feel like, when I was at Arrowhead, I was happy that we were high a little bit, because then at least I could see the other side of the field. I could see what they were doing down there. I feel like if I was down like in the fourth row, like there's no chance of even seeing what's going on down there.
Yeah, I get it. I agree with that too, because I've sat lower, or closer, I should say, during games, and it's when you can't see the whole field, it's like
Right.
it's
Baseball
just
is the opposite. The closer you get to the field in baseball, the easier it is to see, where the ball goes and how the fielders react to it. I feel like when you're high up in baseball, I can't see a thing. It's a bunch of dots, and dots running around and dots and dots. So I feel like it's opposite than that. But let's get back on track to this Canfield and Howland softball game. Melina Toth did what she usually does in the circle, dominated. I felt like Brooke Tater proved in innings 3 through 7 after the team settled down that she belongs in that conversation with Toth and with Watts inside this AAC talk with really good pitchers in the AAC. I think she proved that in the first matchup with Fitch, where she went toe to toe with Sydney Watts and only allowed one run to that high powered Fitch offense that is just lighting up the world right now. I feel like it was just like I said, it took Howland 2 innings to gear up for the cold, and Canfield was ready right from the jump. And I think that was the difference. They scored 6 runs in the first 2, helped out by a couple of uncharacteristic errors from Howland that supplied it, and then a home run from Leah Figueroa. So you add all that together. Like I said, I think the difference in this game was Canfield was just a little bit more ready to face the cold than Howland. I'm excited to see what these two teams do in a little bit warmer weather today in Howland at Howland's home field this time around, and see what happens. See if that changes things. I expect Toth and Tater to get the ball again. Maybe Spengler pitches for Howland. They can definitely go to her, but I think especially what you saw in the last 5 innings where Canfield couldn't make the counter adjustment to her really. I think you might see Tater, you might see a Spengler with a short leash. That'll be interesting to see what Coach Waite does with today's starting lineup and who she throws. Canfield, I think it's got to be Toth. I mean, I know you have Bella Kennedy who pitches pretty well, but right now Toth is your hot hand, and I say especially in conference games when you need a sweep to keep up with Fitch, I think you just put your ace in the circle and you go. That'd be my sentiment. Who knows what Coach Hernan is going to feel about that? But I think you just roll with Toth, especially in conference games.
Do you expect tonight's game to be a lot closer because
I do.
The weather's warmer?
One, if Toth pitches, I think you saw later in the game, Howland started to make adjustments in the lineup with 3 consecutive hits in the 6th inning. So I think their offense will come out a little bit more prepared to face her. But then when you talk about Canfield and going on the road a little bit warmer, they're not going to have that advantage. Hopefully for Howland's sake, they don't make the mental errors that they did in the first 2 innings, because that really was the difference. It was mental errors in the first 2 innings that Howland made. They gave Canfield all the momentum they needed, and if you give Milena Toth that kind of lead, you're going to be in trouble in a hurry. Let's keep going around the scores. We had Jackson Milton softball beat Lowville 16-4, a big win for Jackson Milton. Grace Johns had a great day at the plate. We had Fitch softball get the win over at Paynesville Riverside 9-3. That's one of the most runs that Fitch has given up this year. But hey, the home runs, they were aplenty for Austintown Fitch. They even had a 2-run inside the park home run. So they did it in multiple varieties. So Fitch gets to win 9-3 over the Beavers of Riverside. We saw La Brea baseball. This was a big series against Crestview. Crestview came in undefeated in the conference. La Brea beats them in game 1, 5-2. Very good baseball, very clean baseball. You could tell it was 2 good teams going at it, and La Brea just had the ball break their way last night. We'll see what happens in game 2 coming up when they face each other again. I'm interested. This is a pivotal AAC series. Crestview needs to split. They can't afford a sweep against La Brea. Now La Brea is 12-1 in the season, quickly putting together a very strong year. And I feel like I've said this before on the Roundup show. I don't want this to be kind of sounding like it's disrespectful toward La Brea, but coming out of nowhere, Scotty, I don't think a lot of people talked about La Brea as being one of the baseball powerhouses coming into this season, but here they are 12-1. Dylan Simpson, when he's on the mound, is just absolutely electric, and the rest of their pitching staff doing a really good job behind him. They have depth in the circle. They can score runs. They have great hitting. Brogan Collins having a great day. We got to talk to him during the winter sports season with his bowling. He's having a great year. La Brea is just kind of rolling on all cylinders right now on the baseball night.
Isn't that the beauty of baseball?
I love it.
It's one of those sports more than any other sport. I think more than basketball, more than football, more than soccer, whatever you want to throw out there. More than any other sport, it's one of those where any given day, anything could happen.
Right.
I kind of feel like it's the old saying, like they say, momentum's only as good as the next day's starting pitcher. And I just feel like the beauty of baseball and the reason why I love it and appreciate it so much is the fact that any team on any day could win any baseball game. I mean, you talk about the major leagues, you have a pretty good idea who the really good teams are going to be and then who the bad teams are going to be, but you still know that even the bad teams they're going to win at least 60 if not more games, and the best teams are going to lose at least 60. So there's a lot of variables, but that's the beauty of baseball is really, especially when it comes down to one game, anybody could win. You got to really fasten your seatbelt for anything.
And that's what makes tournament time in high school baseball and softball so fun, Scotty, because it is one and done. There are no series. It's you don't have to be a better team. You just have to be literally better one night, and that's a lot easier to do in baseball and softball, which are such fickle sports, than it is to do maybe in football, where you have to be physically better or you're not going to make it, or basketball, where you just have to have a little bit more talent or you're probably not going to win that game. But in baseball and softball, if you're at least comparable and maybe you have some breaks and the other team doesn't, then you can come up with a big upset. We see it every year.
For sure. And it makes it, as a fan, there's, people that don't like baseball, they'll talk about how it's too slow. Maybe you don't get as much of that talk in softball with the wind up of the pitchers. But um, to me, it's the opposite. It's like, okay, every pitch now, it creates tension. It creates a different conversation.
We talked about Jackson Milton softball. Their baseball team also got the win over Louisville 6-0. Aaron Romai throws a no-hitter for Jackson Milton in their win. They looked really good against MVAC Scarlet Tier foe Louisville last night. 20-3, Brook beats Beaver local baseball. Tough night for the Beavers. East Liverpool tried to rally with 3 runs in the 7th, but they were unable to come back on last night's game. 11-3, they fall. We saw Crestview softball. They were able to hold on. LeBray put the game-tying run at the plate in the bottom of the 7th with a 13-9 deficit. They went into the 7th trailing 13-7. They got the bases loaded with 2 outs with a 13-9 deficit after already scoring 2. So the game-tying run was at the plate, but Crestview able to hold on and get the final out 13-9. The Rebels get the win in an exciting finish in the MVAC. Baseball, not as exciting. Garfield gets the win over Campbell 16-2. The final score there. Those are your finals from last night. We had some MVAC battles. We also had United played a doubleheader, and I want to shout out them real quick as they got the 2 wins over Wellsville. The first one was 13-0. It was a combined no-hitter. Torrey Firth had 4 innings pitched, no hits, and 10 Ks in those 4 innings. He also was 3 for 3 with a home run, a double, and 2 RBI in Game 1 against the Tigers. In Game 2, it was 21-0 United, and Madeline Lucas went 3 for 3 with 3 RBI in that one. So United dominates the doubleheader in the EOAC last night. For stories, recaps, interviews, and more, head over to ysnlive.com for all of the game recaps that our wonderful content team and our announcers work really hard to make sure that as many stories get put up as possible. So make sure to head over to ysnlive.com/live to check out the game recaps and some post-game interviews to select games as well. Scotty, with that being said, we have a much better temperature night tonight. We're going to preview that coming up. But first, when we take a break, we're going to get back and see what's on Scotty's mind like we do every week. He always brings great stuff to the table. So we're going to take a break, and then we'll ask Scotty what he brought to the show today, and then we will end the show by previewing tonight's games and what will be on the network on this much better Wednesday than it was a Tuesday as far as weather goes. Be right back on Running Point.
Before the lights come on, before the workday begins, before a long day is ended, or it's time to have fun, it all starts with the people at Joe Dickey Electric. From replacing a light fixture in your home to building a substation for your business, no job is too big or too small. The people of Joe Dickey Electric power them all. Joe Dickey Electric, over 60 years of powering the Mahoning Valley.
Why choose local? Because you live here, work here, learn here, relax here, and celebrate here. 21 WFMJ is our Valley's only locally owned TV station, and our focus is local. Other TV stations don't have that same focus, as their owners are somewhere else. But 21 WFMJ is rooted in the Valley. Local people making decisions that affect your life, right here where you live.
You're looking to your future, preparing for your goals, and they're closer than you think. Because here, success is part of the plan. It's a place where academic and social opportunities are meant to prepare you for life, not just the next 4 years. You'll be equipped to face new challenges and turn hard work into a career. You're ready for your success to take root. And here's where it starts. We are Youngstown State University, and proud.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions.
WRS Insurance Solutions is a local independent agency that specializes in life, Medicare, long-term care, and disability products. Call us at 330-953-3722 or visit us at wrsinsuranceSolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig with you alongside Scotty Minter. Before we give a shout out, before we give Scotty his time to kind of say what's on his mind today and take us down whatever rabbit hole he's going to do, which is always a scary thought because you never know where Scotty's going to take you. I want to give a shout out to one of my friends and someone that I've met through Georgia Tech, one of the first Georgia Tech athletes that I was able to meet back when I became a fan in 2004, a member of that basketball team in 2004 that went to the Final Four, and Marvin Lewis. Today, he was named the athletic director, the brand new athletic director of George Mason University, and that does have a local tie because former West Branch standout on the softball diamond, Jordan Anderson, is a sophomore going into her junior year at George Mason, so she will be working with Marvin Lewis as the new athletic director at George Mason. I want to congratulate him. You know, he's great to meet. I got the chance to meet him a couple of times, talk with him a couple of times in some of my first trips down to Georgia Tech back when I was a youngin', and can't thank him enough for, you know, obviously being kind and thoughtful to the fan that was coming to meet him. And congratulations on becoming the new athletic director at George Mason. Know you'll do great. And once again, shout out to Jordan Anderson, who is having a great career so far at George Mason from West Branch softball. Scotty, with that being said, with my shout out of the way, what did you bring on your plate today? What's on your mind for today's episode of Running Point?
Now, as you said, I always like to take everybody down some pretty interesting, thought-provoking rabbit holes. But I was just wondering, Anthony, because and I'm not I know you don't watch the NBA, but I'm sure you've heard of Draymond Green, and I know you probably haven't watched the playoffs since you're not an NBA fan. But long story short, I should say, he got suspended for this next game, Game 3, because he did something that violated the rules. And I just wanted to know, for you, in kind of tying this to the high school level in high school sports, people always talk about confidence and being confident in your abilities, and then they talk about cockiness or arrogance. And I just wanted to know for you, we see these stories. You do a great job posting them every single day of these great athletes, boys and girls, and not just what they do on the field, but what they do off the field as well. But how do you think these players, because when it gets between the lines and they're going out there trying to win a game, they're giving their best effort, but what's maybe a little bit different about high schoolers other than the obvious thing that them not getting paid big money, but how do you think they are able to keep from crossing that line to remaining confident and maybe playing with a little bit of an edge, but not letting it spill into cockiness and being arrogant when they're out there playing a sport?
Scotty, here's what I think, and I think there is a very sorry, yeah, my phone just went on. Sorry. There is a very big difference between confidence and ego, and sometimes the line gets blurred and people kind of lose sight of the line. But my line is confidence is conviction, and ego or entitle or ego or cockiness, however you want to describe it, is entitlement, right? So when you're confident, you believe in your abilities, you believe that when you work hard you are going to make things happen. But it kind of gets flipped when you have the ego, when you have the cockiness. You think that you deserve those things to happen before you even put the work in. So cockiness, ego, whatever you want to talk about, is entitlement. You feel that you earned, or you are
You
you are
you
deserved to have those things happen just because of who you are, and conviction in what you're doing and what the work you're putting in is confidence. And those are the two big differences that can trip people up between the two. You got to be confident, but you can't be an egomaniac. You can't be egotistical. It's not gonna fly in team sports. But you have to be confident to go out there and do what you're trained to do and what you've worked so hard to do. So you just got to know that difference between confidence and ego. And I think when you're talking about these alpha personalities, whether it be the professional sports world or even here in high school, we see a lot of alphas. You have to kind of be an alpha mentality to be a superstar on the floor, no matter what level you're at. To be a leader, you have to have a little bit of that dog mentality, as some people call it, mama mentality, whatever you want to say. You just have to always check yourself. Am I being entitled in what I'm saying or how I'm acting? Or am I being convicted, or am I having conviction in my own kind of worth and my own hard work? And if you constantly check yourself and you surround yourself with people that will check you, and say like, hey, that you crossed the line between confidence and ego right there, and not people that will always gas you up in your circle. I think the people that struggle with this the most, Scotty, and you see it a lot, are people that have the people in their circle that don't tell them the truth, that just kind of gas them up all the time, constantly gassing them up, gassing them up, gassing them up. So because they have people that are constantly doing that in their circle, no one's, and for a lack of a better term, no one's tearing them down. And I know that's usually the negative, but for my metaphor, no one's really downing the flame. They're always gassing it up in your circle. Then you get egomaniacal. Then you start to get entitled because you think, because everyone around me is just telling me how great I am, I have to get this. I am entitled to that success. I am entitled to what that can give me. Instead of saying, I can get it, I believe I can get it, but I'm not entitled to it. If that makes sense.
it does make sense. And I guess to kind of piggyback off of that, in your time, Anthony, because you've been on this team longer than I have, and I'll always be forever grateful to be part of the YSN family. I joined in 2019, and it's been sunny days ahead ever since. But you've been here even longer, in your time covering all the sports you've covered and all the athletes, when it comes to that confidence and that ability to, the players that just know they can get the job done, and they believe in themselves, and they're good team leaders, they reach their goal. Who are some of the most confident athletes and or teams that you've covered in your time at YSN now?
I'll tell you what, the first name that comes to mind when I think of the guy that always like walked on a field expecting to do great and believing that he had the confidence to do great, but never ever once did I see this kid cross the line from confidence to, that entitlement that I was talking about. Bo Brungard, everything he did. I mean, football, basketball, every sport he played, he seemed to excel at. He made everyone around him better. He believed in the confidence that he had. And it was just amazing to watch this kid work for the 3 years that we were able to cover him, and obviously get to back-to-back state championships in football and lead his basketball team to regionals. He had this unbelievable just confidence in himself, but also never, like I said, never once took that step into from confidence to entitlement. And always, and I think one of the key marks that you see that, and I think proof of that is, like I said, always making the people around him better. He brought championship mindsets to every roster he stepped on. Now, he wasn't alone because he had a lot of his football teammates go from football to basketball in that small community of Springfield where a lot of sports share athletes. But I feel like Bo, more than anybody in that team, brought that kind of championship mindset to everybody around him. And I think that's why you saw every sport he was involved in have a lot of success. A lot of success. He was the one that first came to mind. Some other ones that I think came to mind when you were talking, and I was trying to, because I knew where you were going, so I was trying to think of names. One of the best shooters that we had on the boys basketball scene, I think, since we've been doing this at YSN, was Zach Brazil. And man, you talk about confidence, like thinking you're going to make it every time you shoot the ball. And then every time you don't, you automatically just think that's a fluke. I mean, that's the shooter mentality. And he had that and some. He could shoot from anywhere. He believed every time he let the ball go, he was going to make it. And he made it more than he missed. I mean, he was a great shooter and one of the great basketball players we've been able to have on the YSN network. If we go to the girls' side, I'm trying to think, one of the ones that I think really did it, especially this year, on the volleyball side, where you have to be really confident because you're going to make errors. It's kind of like baseball and softball in a sense where um, you're never going to play a perfect game. You're going to make their errors. You're going to hit the ball out. Um, you're never gonna hit 1,000 in volleyball, just like in baseball and softball. I think Jocelyn Jordan from Fitch, who's going to be going to play YSU, always stepped on the court with this swagger and this energy and this constant, confidence in her own abilities, and was able to, transition between being a middle to being an outside hitter because of just the utmost belief in herself. But you look at her teammates and the energy she brought to that team. Another player that never really stepped into that line of I'm entitled to this. I believe that, I have to be in this spot because this is where I have to be because I'm Jocelyn Jordan. There was never any of that. It was always whatever this team needs me to be, especially this year, because this team needed a whole stinking lot out of Jocelyn Jordan with the seniors that they lost from last year. I think Jocelyn Jordan during the volleyball season was really fun to watch her kind of morph into whatever her team needed that particular night. Never kind of get into that mindset of I have to be here and I have to get my kills and I deserve to get my numbers. And if I'm not, then, boo on the coach or whatever it may be. Jocelyn Jordan always had that confidence that she could do whatever she needed to do on the floor. Whatever the team needed, she had the confidence that she could go out and do it. And that's why she's going to go play in Division I volleyball. So those were some names that popped into my mind as you were talking. There are a ton more. If I had the time to think about it for a half an hour, I'd probably come up with 3 or 4 or 5 more that really stuck out. But when you were asking the question and I was thinking to myself, what names are going to come to me the quickest? Those were the names that came to me while you were asking the question.
And you talk about stepping up from one year to the next and really delivering for your school and for your teammates, everybody that supports you, the fans, parents, whatever support system. And you did a story just today, I believe. You did a story on Elijah Wall, and I
Well, Aaliyah Wall, yeah.
what's that?
Aaliyah Wall from Middle Ridge.
Aaliyah Wall. I'm sorry. I don't know why I said Elijah, but um, I was just thinking when it comes to Aaliyah Wall, um, what other than the stats you put in the story, why do you think she's been able to be so successful from year one to year two? What are some of the things that have impressed you the most about her?
You know, I haven't had a chance to see her live yet this year, but I was able to watch her last year a couple of times for Middle Ridge. Can't wait to get out and see that team this year. I know they're doing a lot of good things, and their stats are obviously backing them up. But one of the things about Aaliyah Wall is just one, she leads by example. I mean, she's the one that is going to do what, like I said about Jocelyn Jordan, to do whatever she needs to do for the team. I mean, I always have respect for softball third basemen because they're the ones that are charging in from 45 feet away to a hitter that can easily smack one off your face if the ball goes that way. So there's no fear in a third baseman. They call it the hot corner for a reason, and she plays a really good third base. She's only made 2 errors all year so far at third. Has a fielding percentage of, just under 900 at 899 so far this year. And she just one of those players that really takes her opportunities and makes the most out of them. She definitely waited for her time at Middle Ridge. She's not a player that's stepped into as a freshman and went right to varsity. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. That wasn't her story. She had to kind of learn from some leaders, and then she got an opportunity and she ran with it. Now here she is, second on the team in average and starting at third base, which is one of the hardest positions to play in softball on the defensive side. So I'm immensely impressed by what she's putting together this year. 588 average, which is really, really good. And the fact that that's second on the team is it's a testament to what that offense is doing down there in Middle Ridge.
Yeah, I thought that was a great story on Aaliyah. Read it earlier this morning, and I also was reading about the Falcons softball, and they continue to roll now on the season, undefeated. I think 13-0, if I remember correctly, if I'm not mistaken. But do you think because they face some tough opponents, one of the toughest schedules, but they seem to be clicking on all cylinders? Do you think this Falcons team? I mean, if they're playing their best out there, their A game, which a lot of these games they have, if they're playing their A game, do you think there's a team that could knock them off, or do you think, the only team that could maybe get in their own way is the only thing that could get in their own way is themselves maybe not playing to their potential?
Well, there are some sports that I would say the way the Fitch is playing right now, there's not too many teams that can beat them, because there are some sports where you have to hope that teams like that have a really bad day for you to have a chance. But in softball and baseball, we've talked about it before. We've talked about it on this show. It is a fickle creature. If you're good, you can win a game against a good team. And there are a lot of good teams in the state. There's a lot of good teams in that conference. And I think Howland in the first game of the season proved that, they're beatable. Fitch is beatable. Fitch is hittable. Riverside scored 3 on them. They're a very, very great softball team, undefeated right now, 11-0. They're doing all the things right. But I think Coach Ward, even when he came on the show on Monday, he brought up that there are still things that he wants them to do a lot better. They're not a great, well, I shouldn't say they're not up to their standard right now on base running. They want to be more aggressive on the base pass. Their pitch selection early in the count. I mean, he brought up a lot of things that, you have to fine tune. You have to kind of nitpick when you're talking about a team that's doing these things that great. But when you start analyzing pitch a little bit with a little bit more of a microscope, with you, which you have to do with really, really good teams. You have to be able to analyze what Fitch is doing, and you have to be able to really hold them under a microscope, because you have to be able to find things that they need to improve on as a coach. Those are the things. I mean, can Fitch lose? Yeah, they can lose. I mean, they have Canfield in their conference. Molina Toth is having almost just as good of a year as Sidney Watts is right now. I mean, those two are on a collision course in the circle. Canfield has a good offense. I think Boardman in their second game had a really good game plan against Austintown Fitch. Didn't come out in their favor, but you watch their at-bats. They had really good at-bats against Sidney Watts. I think a lot of teams can watch Boardman's second game and think like, okay, this is some of the things that we have to try to do against Watts to kind of have some success. Riverside had some success last night as well. I mean, it's easier said than done, because Sidney Watts is probably one of the best pitchers that a lot of these players are ever going to see in their softball career. She's throwing 68 miles per hour with her velocity, and then she'll come in with a changeup that probably 50 miles an hour or in the high 40s. That's just it's tough. It's something that you don't see every day. It's something that a lot of these hitters in the area might not see again in their career, because it's one of those ones. It's a Power 5 caliber pitcher. Like, he probably could go and pitch for anybody in the country right now, and especially when you think about she has 2 more years to develop herself after this year. That's even scarier. I mean, there's a Tennessee pitcher right now that is hitting the radar gun at 75. It tells you the development of softball. It used to be 70 was a unicorn, and now there's a freshman in Tennessee, Carla Pickens, who's throwing at 75 miles an hour on the radar gun. So, if you can get in the high 60s or 70s, you're going to go anywhere you want to go. So
I found it very very interesting, Anthony. I think it was our conversation last week or the week before on the show, and you said what people don't realize is someone hitting high 60s, 70, like a Watts, or the pitcher you just mentioned hitting 75. I mean, I found it just super fascinating that you said a lot of people think of it, and they don't even realize that if you compare it to like Major League Baseball, that's like somebody it throwing it in the 90s or close to triple digits.
that's why it's the same comparable. I mean, if you have a baseball player in high school that's throwing 90, 91, 92, like, that's someone that's going to college anywhere they want, right? I mean, there aren't too many college coaches that are going to be like, no, we don't want 92 mile an hour fastball. We don't want that. Same thing with Sidney Watts. He's throwing 68 right now, is where, he's probably averaging 67, 68. I'm sure by the end of her senior year, she'll get that up to 70. When you have that is comparable to your 95 mile an hour fastball that no coach no coach is going to turn their head at. You can probably go play anywhere. It's just going to come down to where Sidney Watts feels the most comfortable, what school has what she wants to do as a career, what coaching staff she falls in love with, what program she falls in love with. But I don't think there's a program that she could walk onto in a camp or whatever and say, show what she can do, and they're going to be like, we don't want you, unless it's a lineup thing. Like, we already have pitchers, there's not really a place for you on our staff. That could happen. But as far as any team that needs a pitcher, that's looking for a pitcher in college softball, whether it be Tennessee, Alabama, UCLA, I don't care. Throw out one of the teams that is a blue blood in softball, they would say yes to Sidney Watts if they needed a pitcher. It's that kind of thing. And you got to think, like, a lot of the hitters in this area and even in the region, unless they're playing high level travel ball, they're not seeing that kind of pitcher too often. Like a pitcher that could step on anywhere where she wanted to go. That's why she's been so tough to hit against really good offenses that honestly have good game plans against her. Like I said, I think Boardman had a really good game plan and they still scored nothing and they lost 6-0. Because I mean, you look at their at bats, I think their at bats were good, but you're still going to strike out 11 times. You're still going to, you're still going to ground out. It's hard to go up against that level of pitching when you've never seen that level of pitching before. And you'll probably, for most of these players, you're not going to see it again.
Do you think it's kind of like, I mean, I know we talked about this a little bit before, but do you think somebody like that could throw so hard, do you still feel like the best approach is get up there and be aggressive early at the
Be
plate?
aggressive. And then what I always tell any hitter that's going up against someone that's velocity driven, even if they're not like super fast, like City Watts, they're coming out throwing 62, which is still pretty fast for this level of softball. I tell my hitters, you have to sit on velocity and then react to the off speed. You can't get up there looking for off speed. You'll never catch up to velocity. So you go up there, you're reacting to off speed if she throws it, but you have to be sitting on velocity. You have to be ready to go for velocity. One thing what you have to do with Sydney Watts is you have to see her down. Like you can't chase her rise ball. If you're chasing her rise ball, you're never going to hit her. And that's what Boardman, I think, did a really good job at. You go watch that Boardman game and you break down the at-bats. They did not swing and miss at a lot of pitches up here. Those rise balls that Sydney Watts wants you to miss will come up at your eyes. This is your swing and miss rise ball. And then she'll throw it for a strike, and she'll also throw that one that's barely out of the zone. But a lot of hitters, and even, I mean, it's a lot easier said than done, but they'll chase that rise ball of hers that's up here. And if she gets you chasing up here, it's game over. It's game over. She's got you beat. And it's hard because when you're locked in and you're trigger happy and you're saying, okay, I'm going to swing, that rise ball looks like it's going to be waist high. By the time you swing at it, it's up at your eyes. You can't do anything with it. So it's a lot easier said than done. But when she gets you swinging at a rise ball up at your eyes, you're done. So that's the first and foremost. You have to see the ball down. You have to train yourself to say, if it's at my waist when I see it, it's going to be too high. I have to see it at my knees or my thighs. You have to train your brain to swing at the pitch that looks like it's going to be low. Got to see her down. And then once you do that, that's kind of game one. And then there's a whole nother side of things like, she can come at you with a curveball. She can hit both sides of the plate. But the first step is staying off her elevation. And then after that, you have a chance. Not a good chance, but you still have a chance. You have no chance if you have no chance if you don't. If you don't lay off a rise ball, you have no chance. If you do, you have somewhat of a chance.
Do you think it's kind of one of those things like they say in like baseball with like a knuckleball pitcher? If it's high, let it fly. If it's low, let it go.
If you see a rise, like one, you have to pick up her spin. Like you have to be able to say, okay, she is holding the ball, she's getting under it, and that is going to be a rise ball. You see that low, you better swing because that's going to be a flat rise ball, and it's going to be the easiest pitch you hit out of the park is a flat rise ball because rise balls, pitchers get under it, right, to get to that rise, so it's already got the backspin. So if you get a piece of a rise ball that doesn't get up in the zone, that backspin's going to carry it out of the park faster than you could say, that ball's gone. And Sydney Watts is going to be, when she starts to play really good hitters, she's going to be one of those pitchers that is susceptible to giving up home runs. It happens you look at all the best rise ball pitchers in college softball. They're really, really good. They'll get a lot of strikeouts, but they are going to give up a home run because she supplies the power with her velocity. And every now and then she's going to have a rise ball that doesn't get where it needs to go. And these really, really good hitters are going to see it. They're going to take it and they're going to drill it. That's just one of the things that Watts is going to have to probably adjust to when she gets to college. I don't know how many high school players are going to be able to consistently stay on top of that rise ball and hit it off for a home run. It's going to be a lot of strikeouts in the rise ball in high school, but when she starts to see the high quality hitters, which she will in travel to, I mean, she's playing for a national travel team that is going around the country playing Division I softball players. So she'll see it a lot in travel, but in this high school season, she's got to make sure that she stays with that mindset of, okay, when I'm playing the players that really matter, though, like they're going to be able to hit this rise ball, and they're going to be able to hit it a long way. if they get a piece of it. So,
And I wanted to correct myself real quick, Anthony. I said, "Is it like a knuckleballer?" But I meant like the mentality. I meant, is it opposite of what they say about the knuckleballer?
oh yeah,
Like,
I mean,
yeah.
for rise ball. Like I said, rise ball. If you see it where it's gonna look sweet, like it looks like it's gonna be waist high, which is a pitch you want to swing at, let it go. If you see it low, man, you better drill it. That's why you hear a lot of coaches when they're going up against rise ball pitchers in the batter. I mean in the third baseline, you'll hear it all the time on a softball field. See her down, see her down, see her down, because you want to see that rise ball down. You don't want to see it where your brain is trained to see pitches. You want to see the rise ball down, and then you can swing at it and hopefully get a good piece of it. Stay on top of the rise ball and take that backspin out of the park.
Uh, Very interesting stuff. I'm learning more and more about
Taking notes.
softball. Yeah, taking notes every week.
What else you got, Scotty?
I was just wondering, as we come to a close, we only got a few minutes left on the show today, but I was wondering, so far in the lacrosse, when it comes to the lacrosse season so far, I was wondering, what are some things that um, have taken you by surprise a little bit when it comes to lacrosse? And then also, I just wanted to know, are there things that have happened this season that you kind of saw coming?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that surprised me, Scotty, was the fact that they took a spring break. Like a lot of these lacrosse teams that are gonna either be playing tonight or played last night, they've been off for like a week and a half. They kind of took their spring break, didn't play during spring break. You see a lot of softball, baseball teams, they're trying to get as many games in during spring break as possible because they can travel and they can play games at noon and play another game at 5, whatever it may be. They're trying to get as many games in as possible while they don't have school. Lacrosse was opposite. They were like, hey, let's hit pause, let's take a mental break a little bit, and then we'll get back to games when we get back to school. So I thought that threw me for a loop when the coach Shaheen, she texted scores for Mooney. She sent in the score like a couple weeks ago, or like her last score before spring break, and then it's like they'll be back in action on April 19th. I was like, what? That's like 2 weeks away. Why are you waiting so long to play a game? That threw my mind for a loop. But they're back in action. Canfield got the win last night. Right behind me, you could hear the lacrosse game going on right behind the softball field. It was funny because, every like I don't know 5 or 10 minutes, you heard like this lacrosse siren. Woo, 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 woo. Someone scored a goal. Um, that was fun. But yeah, lacrosse. As far as the things that the expect, the teams that have been great, they're still great. Canfield lacrosse still playing at a high level. You still have Mooney there. They came in. Everyone thought they'd be two of the best teams in the region, and they're still both two of the best teams in the region. So that does not surprise me at all when you think about girls lacrosse. Both those teams lighting the world on fire. 13-6 win for Canfield last night. Cardinal Mooney back in action tonight. We'll have a recap for them. And I wanted to give a shout out to the other lacrosse teams. I know we have a couple more in the area. Like if you see those two teams getting coverage, it's because they turn in their stats. So if you want coverage, we are glad to cover your lacrosse team. We want to get your athletes out there. We want to get their success out there. We just got to have a little bit of help as far as getting stats and info into the into the memory bank. So make sure you send us your stats. You can send us a message on Instagram. I'll be happy to kind of forward you the email to send them to, or Facebook or Twitter. You can message us on any of the social media accounts. And I'll be glad to kind of forward you the email. We'd love to cover your lacrosse teams, tennis teams as well. All the spring sports. If you feel like, hey, we need more coverage, it's no problem to us to help you with that. We like I said, we need the info to do it. So That being said, like I said, Canfield won last night, 13-6 over Boardman, and Mooney back in action for the first time since the spring break tonight. So Mooney gets back in action as well. Scotty, I think it's time to preview the night ahead and see what's going on for tonight on the network and otherwise. Let's start with baseball. Hey, here's the good news, Scotty. 0 red on our spreadsheet, which means 0 cancellations today, which is a good thing to see after 2 days of a lot of red and a lot of cancellations. So here's what's going to be on the network. As far as baseball goes, we'll start with baseball. 4:30 start time from Fitch as Mooney comes to town. Alec Caberna going to have the call there. 4:30 start time in Lakeside as Sam Torres calls the Dragons welcoming in Conneaut. Then the rest of these games are going to start at 5. Jackson Milton will be at Lowville. That'll be on scene 3. And that will be on our network, but video only. So we'll have a camera set up on scene 3 for that one. Jefferson goes to Struthers. That'll be on scene 1 at 5 o'clock. Noah Doty will have the call for that one. Lakeview goes to Niles. It'll be Cooper Chavone on the call there. Poland goes to South Range. Chris Colucci has the call with Jimmy Powell at 5 o'clock on that end on the baseball diamond. That'll be a big one. Both baseball and softball, Poland versus South Range. A lot of implications in the NE8, so tune in to those two games tonight. We'll preview the softball game in a bit. Wellsville will be at Columbiana baseball tonight. Joe Eusebio on the call. 5 o'clock first pitch there. 5:30 first pitch. Mooney at Austintown Fitch. 6:30. It'll be a doubleheader. So obviously 4 and 6:30 at Fitch. Alec Caberna will be there for both. And then at scene 1 on 7 o'clock, Cheney will be playing Ursuline. That one will be video only, so it'll be on the network, but we'll have a camera set up and you'll be able to watch that one on the network. Here's some other baseball games that are happening. Alliance will be at West Branch tonight. Badger goes to Pymatuning Valley. Latonia goes to East Palestine. Southern goes to United. Liberty will be at Champion. LeBray will be at Crestview. Brookfield will be at Newton Falls. And Hubbard goes to Girard tonight. On the softball side of things, here are the games that are happening on the network. Ty Bartell leaving the friendly press box of Austintown Fitch. They're off tonight, so he'll be kind of roaming around. He'll be in Jackson Milton as Lisbon comes to town. So Lisbon at Jackson Milton, 5 o'clock. Ty Bartell will be on the call there. Hubbard will be at Girard tonight. I will be on the call for that NE8 matchup. Both teams had a great week last week. Hubbard with back-to-back no-hitters against Niles. Girard had a very successful trip to Tennessee, so we'll see what both those teams have in store for us in their first game after their spring break. And then Poland will be at South Range tonight. DJ Oakley, who has been doing a great job covering that South Range softball team, he'll be in South Range for round 1 of that matchup between the Bulldogs and the Raiders. Poland with one loss in the NE8. They dropped one to Jefferson, so they need a sweep of this series if they want to have a chance in the conference. South Range, they want to sweep to just kind of put Poland out of the conversation. And it has come down to those two the last 4 years, the last, since the creation of the NE8 in softball. It's come down to Poland and South Range. And this year, if South Range takes care of business in these next 2 games, tonight and tomorrow, they could be sitting in the catbird seat of the NE8 already with half the season to go. Some other games that are happening on the network tonight. Grand Valley will be at Lakeside at 4:30. Badger at Pie Valley will be at 5 o'clock. Cheney goes to Cardinal Mooney at the Field of Dreams, 5 o'clock first pitch there. Indian Creek will be at East Liverpool. That's a 5 o'clock first pitch. Latonia at East Palestine, 5 o'clock first pitch. Salem will be at Beaver Local tonight. That's also at 5 o'clock. Southern goes to United. Walsh Jesuit goes to Louisville. Harding will be at Boardman. That's senior night for the Spartans. Liberty is going to play a 5-inning doubleheader, so 2 5-inning games with Champion tonight to conclude their MVAC series in one fell swoop. Springfield will be at McDonald tonight at Woodland Park at 5 o'clock. Lakeview goes to Niles. Mogador goes to JFK, and then Waterloo will go to Sebring tonight at 5. We have tennis on the network today, Scotty. Also to shout out, 3:45 Niles versus Struthers in tennis, and it will be Bob Zanny and the school crew on the call there on the Struthers tennis side. So a lot of things on the network. Scotty, what stuck out to you the most about what will be on the network before we get out of here?
I think you talked about those battles between. I think what I'm most intrigued about is the battles, and to see if South Range, if they could lock things up here. Your alma mater.
My alma
That's
mater.
something I'm gonna be keeping a close eye on.
I got the even the state runner up banner, or the state runner up poster right there under the Georgia Tech football poster as well. So, my alma mater. But I am neutral. Put the Ysn hat on. Take the
Yeah,
Raider hat off. It's gonna be a fun matchup.
it should be a really fun matchup. Poland, the bite is back. So
The bite is back. The Bulldog bite is back. That is going to do it today for Running Point. Make sure to tune in to all those games at ysnlive.com/live. That's where you can find them. I'm Anthony Hartwig. That's Scotty Mincher. I should say that's Scotty Mincher. I'm pointing the wrong way. You're not over there. Thank you so much for tuning in today. It's Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Tomorrow, we're going to have an interview to play for you with Manny Dravecki, one of the seniors from Boardman that is going through senior night tonight. So make sure to tune in tomorrow from 1 to 2 as we have her interview, along with recaps of all of tonight's action and preview of tomorrow night's action as well. We'll be back tomorrow